Hey everybody, so the party decided to play Fabula Ultima, but one of the players really wanted to play a mech pilot, and, you know, we were playing Natural Fantasy, so that shit's not gonna fly, and there was a bunch of back and forth, and then arguing that you could, it was a whole thing, it was really a whole thing, and eventually, no one really agreed. I don't really know what's going on, everyone's walked away, so I think session's canceled.
I'm feeling a little attacked on that one. That was unnecessary. The fuck?
In this instance, yes, I was attacking you, but I also said I was not married to playing a mech pilot.
Bro, I'm out here the only one who's running the fucking game, bitch. Like, what?
Look, at least in this one, you know that you're being subtweeted for sure.
It's not a subtweet at that point. You just added me.
I did just add you.
Crazy.
I literally, the second I was like, mech pilot, and you were like, probably not. I was like, this is gonna be the cold open.
Okay, then.
That's literally how that went. So for context, Josh, you know, has said he's gonna run Fabula Ultima. And we were like, oh, cool, nice. And we got the day set. And then today before podcast, I was like, mech pilot? And he went, Natural Fantasy. And I went, damn. And then I decided to add him.
So he decided that was an ample opportunity to come after me, apparently.
I did, yeah.
Sorry, I'm a GM. I have certain principles that I have an idea for the kind of game I want to run. I'm very specific about my needs.
Your needs? Oh, your needs.
Yes, my needs.
Your hot girl tummy problems.
Needs. No, I don't have those needs. Different needs. Emotional needs.
Oh, you need some aftercare after the boss fight? You need someone to, like, pat your head?
A little bit, yes.
Okay, cool. It's good to know.
Just a little bit.
So, I mean, I guess this is Tabletop Shoutout Part 5 of Fabula Ultima. Stand by for Part 6 in the nearest future.
Yes, 5, yeah.
Yeah, because a fucking Natural Fantasy Atlas dropped, baby. Let's go.
Well, it dropped a while ago, but it dropped in English for us more recently.
That's pretty much, yeah. And
it dropped in Italian quite a while ago.
Yeah. And let me just say, I didn't even look at it when it was in Italian. I just kind of was like, I'll wait for it to come out. So I didn't know this was the case. But Gourmet is out as a class. We're going to talk about it later.
Yes.
It's so fucking cool that, like...
I have some thoughts on Gourmet.
I have thoughts about the new classes in general. Mostly like 90% good. I have some thoughts though. It's kind of funny.
Okay.
Before we get into that though, because you're gonna just fucking hit me over the head with this one anyway. Tell people what they gotta know.
It's good to drink water and get 8 hours of sleep. That's what you should know.
Every time I set him up for it, he gives me this shit, and then every time I don't set him up for it, he comes in fast and hard. No care.
I've also heard that following or subscribing on whatever platform you're listening on is great for your gains. Just saying.
Those peptides, baby.
Yeah, they're digital peptides. Spotify actually zoops the peptides through the internet straight into your body.
Okay, as someone who knows not about like performance enhancing substances, that peptides thing, like all that crazy shit, I know. Well, like yes, drugs, but like
yes.
Does that like crazy healing shit that people are attributing to peptides, is that real? Like I blew my knee out and I was on peptides for 2 months and now my knee is good as new. Is that real?
So like as is many things when it comes to health stuff, kind of, in that, do peptides help with recovery? Yes. However, if you like shattered your entire leg and then take peptides and then just sit around and do nothing, is it going to magically heal your leg? Probably not. I mean, your body regenerates itself to a certain degree. So like, are they a miracle drug? Probably not. Are they very helpful for recovery? Probably yes. But peptides are not, as far as I'm aware, not that I've looked into them a ton. So take this with a very large amount of table salt. They're not like a miracle fix-all drug situation, but they can be quite beneficial, is my understanding. As is the case with many, supplements and over-the-counter, well, not over-the-counter in this case, but you know what I mean. As is the case with supplements and other various methods of recovery and all that shit.
Gotcha.
So,
I probably should have done my own research because I'm currently taking over-the-counter peptide serums to unpop my popped-ass hairline. So, maybe I should have done research, but it's fine. If I die, I die. My
understanding of it currently, which is not super in-depth because this is not one of those ones I've looked into a lot, is that it's it can't hurt kind of thing right now. So,
gotcha. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But we're not a fitness podcast.
That being said, though, when it comes to hair loss, finasteride is your best friend. That's the big boy.
It is. Yes. I just don't want to go through the side effects of not taking it. Like if I can't afford it.
That's fair. Yes, that is a fair point. Yes.
Yeah.
It can be a little harsh in other regards while taking it too. So that's fair.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm hitting myself with the peptides twice a week, Dermastamp twice a week, and then daily. Or sorry, the peptides every day, Dermastamp twice a week, and then the rosemary and tea tree oil twice a week.
I was gonna say I do have some. I have some videos I can point you to if you're so inclined.
I mean, that would be not bad.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway. The biggest source of Isaiah's embarrassment aside.
Yeah.
This book is pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. It gives us, so I initially when I was reading it, a part of me expected, not like a huge part of me, but a part of me expected something kind of as game changing as Technospheres. And that is not the case.
No, however, I think it's worth understand. I think it's worth.
Give me one sec. Okay. As I realized upon finishing the reading, something as game-changing as Technospheres is not true to what natural fantasy is. Right? Like natural fantasies, as far as I could tell, is a pulling back on things. Of sort of bringing things down to a more grounded level.
It's almost a little bit of a regression, yes.
Yes, but like a purposeful one. You don't feel like you're losing anything, but you just feel like the game has given you a somewhat lower plateau to stand on and sort of exist at.
It is I would say a tonal regression, not necessarily a mechanical regression. No, and when I use the word regression, but I don't mean it in a negative context.
Yes. A simplification, I guess, is more. It's a tonal. Yeah, the word is escaping me, and probably Josh too. But like,
a little
this
bit,
sounds not.
That's
good,
why I use the word regression.
Yeah, this sounds not good. I guarantee you, we're going to talk about it. That couldn't be further from the case.
Well, here's the funny thing about this particular atlas. So, from a purely looking at the three atlases as a product and what they deliver for the game in terms of game design and mechanics, I think the Natural Fantasy Atlas is my least favorite of the three. But I have two very important qualifier statements, which is one, I'm comparing two A pluses to like an A minus. In the same way that if you say, oh, I don't like Persona 4 as much as I like Persona 5, you're comparing like an A plus to like an A or an A minus, right? Like Personas 3, 4, and 5 are all fucking bangers, but you have one that you like a little bit more than the other ones. But it's not like one of them is it's not like one of them is bad, right? So the Natural Fantasy Atlas is not bad. I initially liked it a little bit less. However, as I was reading it and thinking about it, it grew on me so much so. It grew on me so much that I am now going to use it for the upcoming campaign.
I'm really happy that we had the exact same thought process. Yeah, because I started off being like, oh, it's, you know, it's simpler. Okay, it's fine. And like, the more I thought about it, I was like, wait, is this a 12-head play? It was.
Kinda. The Natural Fantasy Atlas suggests a lot of really interesting ideas that get your brain kind of cooking. It's like, mechanically, it's not going as crazy, but in terms of just the general writing, it is invoking a lot more ideas in my head. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yes, I get it.
It kind of feels like Emmanuel and the team, their writing has just gotten better.
Yes, okay. So I specifically put that in my notes. And
yeah,
I for me, where I sort of realized how good this atlas was as I was reading the classes.
Yes.
That was where I was like, wait a minute. This makes a lot of sense now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're going to get it. Like I keep saying that. We're going to get into it. But I think the overall mechanical design of the natural fantasy classes is the best we have seen from Emma and the crew.
Bold statement. I have to think about that a little bit.
I love the mech pilot. It's my favorite class.
Uh-huh.
But in terms of sheer design quality, the new classes are they're brilliant. Like Florist, Gourmet, Evoker, and Merchant are I've never read one of the atlases and gone, oh, I could do an interesting character here. Ooh, but that would be cool if I did a character like this. Ooh, but if an Evoker would be really sick. Oh, a Merchant could be really interesting. Like, usually I go, I like that one, I like that one. But I've never had one where like all of them went, oh, these are all good.
I do think I know what you mean. The one little caveat I would say is that the natural fantasy classes shake up the game the least.
You think so?
But yes, in so much that if you look at the pilot, for example, or the chanter, the pilot especially, the pilot really shakes up the game, because if you have a pilot in your group, that is going to influence conflicts quite a lot, because the pilot has its own little subsystem thing going on with it, and it's complicated. The difference is the Gourmet, for example, is equally complicated. Arguably, the Gourmet might be one of the most complicated classes.
The most, yeah. It's
of any of them. But the Gourmet seamlessly can work with almost any group I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There are certain groups where a pilot will feel a little clunky to have in them, but a Gourmet will work in pretty much any group. And I think a part of that is somewhere along the line, the crew realized, or somebody had an epiphany or something, where they went, we can make a complicated class, but we can make a complicated class that is harmonious with a lot of different stuff. Like somewhere I think that epiphany was hit, because the Gourmet is really the one that hit more than any of them for me personally, followed immediately by the Florist, only because the Florist was a class that I initially looked at and went, I don't know if I'm down for this. And then I read it and went, I'm actually very down for this.
I was the exact same. I was like, Florist? Oh, no.
Yeah, what are we doing there?
And once I started reading what each of the Magisteeds do, I was like, oh, fuck, this is really cool.
Yeah. So that's what I mean, where the writing quality I think, has stepped up.
Yes,
which
by
is
leaps
kind
and
of funny.
bounds.
It's weird. It's weird because the Atlas that is trying to mess with the base formula, arguably the least, has the writing quality that is the best. So it's kind of a funny.
I mean, it does exemplify simple dish well met, like well made.
Yeah, essentially that is essentially what we're getting at. Yes. Yeah, it's weird. It's like as I was reading it, I was having all these conflicting thoughts where I was like, I don't know if I like this. Maybe I do. I like that, but I don't know if I like that. Do I like this? I do like. It was a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, very much same.
Yeah.
That
being said,
standing ovation, really. Like
yeah,
almost no notes.
Well,
like,
and the funny thing too is this particular Atlas, the sales pitch, if you will, the elevator pitch, was the one that I was initially least interested in as an elevator pitch.
Right.
But they hit a note in such a fashion that I changed my tune.
Yes. I mean, like, it's really good.
So where do you want to start with us?
I mean, well, we're going to start from the, we're just going to hit it from the top. So kind of to explain to people what we're talking about and what natural fantasy even fucking is.
Yeah, it's a little unclear from the jump.
Yes. It really,
like when you read through the book, it becomes clear, but your initial thought is not. I think the idea of natural fantasy in terms of the JRPG genre is probably the least touched upon, or one of the lesser touched upon ones, I should say.
Very much so, yeah. And again, to what natural fantasy is, it seeks to bring forward a fantasy subgenre that is of an overall lower fantastical setting, at least from the ground up, right? Like, things are about small villages, native tribes, people just trying to make it to the next day. You're not dealing with castles and kings and shit like that. It is, well, you can, but like on the player side facing things, you're not typically.
Yeah, the way I ended up thinking about it was I just kept imagining Princess Mononoke.
Yes.
In game form. In
fact,
it's very much the Studio Ghibli book.
Yes, it really is. I literally said the way that they talk about the ancient civilizations and under the layers of nature. That's just Nausicaa. Mm-hmm. That's just straight up Nausicaa. And I was like, 100%.
Well, and the other thing I thought of was I forget where, I think it was when it was talking about villains. It mentioned the idea of sometimes an antagonist / villain could be just an animal that's corrupted, or like, darkness is taken over. And I just thought of the corrupted boar in Princess Mononoke.
Yep, the corrupted boar, the decapitated god
theme. All that.
My immediate thought for natural fantasy oddly was Nier. Like if I was going to run this game, how would I do it? And I think Nier, OG Nier is the best way that I would run it. This crazy virus, but the virus is actually like a digital control virus from a crazy super advanced civilization, and it's corrupting everything. That's how I would want to do it. That, or I mean, Shadow of the Colossus. Just 100%.
Shadow of the Colossus is very on the money, 100%. Yeah. Shadow of the Colossus is almost the perfect touchstone.
It would be great too, because if you ran a Shadow of the Colossus game that was about, there's these 13 giant nature spirits that you have to go around killing. The idea being you're not actually supposed to kill them, and the players have that choice to not kill them. Dude, that would be so fucking good.
In fact, the mechanics of Fabula in general, between the way conflict scenes are handled and the clock system and the way that boss monsters and stuff are broken up into parts, a Shadow of the Colossus campaign, I think, would be pretty easy to run with this system. Mm-hmm. With very little, actually, basically zero hacking. I don't think you would need to hack anything. I think you could pretty much run it as is.
Yeah. I mean, the only times I think things could get noodly is if you wanted to do the scale the monster thing, but those are just clocks.
Yeah, that would just be another kind of clock. Yeah, I don't think you would have to do much.
Yeah. Now, to sort of go into this, the design philosophy for this game and for Natural Fantasy in general, as we keep saying, is overall speaking lower level play. You're going to probably expect lower level characters, lower level villains, lower level stakes. And stakes is kind of an odd one, right? Because you're like, well, what quantifies like the stakes of a situation?
Yeah.
In Princess Mononoke, a forest deity, it's a god, but it's not capital G, god. It is
the stakes is the local forest and the towns around it. And the
perfect example in Avatar, when they cut the forest down and Heibai shows up. There's no question that like Aang probably isn't gonna beat Heibai, but Heibai is not a continent level threat like the Fire Nation is.
Yes, he's an angry spirit that's gonna destroy this town and level it and kill a lot of people. But once he does that, he's not gonna then go and destroy the next town over or whatever. He's just gonna stop and be happy that his forest is taken care of again.
Yes, it will. The idea being the spirit will return nature back to the way it was. And that actually is a perfect segue because it really brings in what the major themes of Natural Fantasy are. With this atlas specifically, you're looking at all things that have to do with, the cyclical nature of the worlds, the chaotic harmony of nature, this battle against corruption and greed. If you want to run it, the whole like study of ancient civilizations thing, a la Nausicaa or Monster Hunter. All in all, the vibes here, immaculate.
The vibes.
The vibes are on point.
I will say, in terms of the mechanics, because you were talking about how you were initially hoping for something on the level of a technosphere. I will say something I think would have been really interesting to have in this book, and I think I know why they didn't go with this route, but I would have loved to see a mechanic that actually depowers the PCs, like rolls their effectiveness back, and emphasizes the idea of the more local town hero instead of the big regional world saving hero, because Fabula by default is in that Final Fantasy, 10-esque save the world to some degree. And I think it'd be interesting if the Natural Fantasy book had pulled PCs back, like depowered and restricted them a little bit in exchange for something. I don't know exactly what it would be, but some other mechanic where they couldn't necessarily fight a god, but they could still fix the problem kind of idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There is no bespoke rules for this, but it seems pretty clear just based on the verbiage used and how complex and interesting the classes in this atlas are, that I can't imagine you want players to go past level 30. And that's like high level. Like a Natural Fantasy in my head is level 20, 25, 30 at the highest. It doesn't work if you are, an Avengers level threat fighting Heibai, if you're dropping meteors on a giant bear,
I think it could still work, but there would be a point where you have to shift the scope a little bit. Like shift the scope, but keep the theme. So
I have the greatest. Hold on, sorry, real quick. I have the greatest example of this.
Okay.
Final Fantasy 14 in A Realm Reborn is natural fantasy. Think about it.
Explain. I think I know what you mean, but
so when you start Realm Reborn, you are a guy, right? You are a low-level adventurer just trying to get their footing in. And you're doing random jobs, in your town. Hell, like let's say Gridania for the sake of natural fantasy.
Okay.
You're doing jobs, you're fighting off.
Gridania is very, very natural fantasy.
Exactly, yeah. You're fighting off the local tribes of
beast tribes.
Of beastmen, and they go, that's it. We're tired of your shit, Warrior of Light. We're summoning our god. And the first one, they summon Ifrit. And Ifrit is a city destroying threat. Not even like a city. He's like a town destroying threat, right? He's not that big.
Actually, Ifrit could be a city destroying threat depending on the belief in him, but yeah.
Yes. Well, we only had a couple dozen. Oh god, I can't remember what Ifrit's tribe's called. Amalja, yeah. Nope. There weren't enough of them to summon him at that scale. But the fact that they did it was kind of what freaked everyone out, right? They're like, oh god, okay, shit got serious. Because they're hitting their equivalent of the nuclear button. It's not the actual nuclear button. It's not Bahamut, who is the real capital N nuclear button, but it's a similar thing. So
you're saying the idea of summoning the primals and the sylphs and the Amalja and the kobolds all being pissed off that humanity's encroaching upon that whole part of A Realm Reborn is the natural fantasy vibe?
Yes, and the idea being that, despite the fact that you are fighting on the side of humanity, your whole thing is to broker peace, because you're not really killing the Amalja. You're fighting them off, and you only really kill, lore-wise, the ones that get corrupted by the primals. Because they're just, they're not going to stop.
And I think it's also worth pointing out that a big part of the earlier Realm Reborn stuff, and then this does travel into the later expansions, the idea that you realize the city-states were perhaps being a little unfair to the beast tribes. And actually in Endwalker, there's a whole chunk of the MSQ that is about getting the beast tribes on your team and sort of apologizing for the way you treated them, which is very in line with the natural fantasy thing, in that humanity and technology are taking over, and then you realize that you overstepped your bounds and should have respected nature more. So yes, you are on the correct track. Yes.
Yeah. And it has to do with you sort of on at the end going, well, we have to work with the beast tribes, at least in terms of information warfare, because Garlemald is actually gassing people.
Yes, literally.
Literally gassing people. We need to cut this shit out right now. You could do that. You could do it pretty well. I mean, this is a Final Fantasy game, natural fantasy. Yeah, you could do a 14, what is that, the video I sent you where it's like, this is just your fan fiction of Mistborn, isn't it? That's
yes. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I wanted to bring up the conflicts really quick, because I think they're pretty fun. So the big conflicts here are ignorance and fear, which, I mean, we're kind of dealing with that right now, aren't we? Which is to say, the idea that humans are constantly afraid of the outside world, the natural world, because we are squishy and do not have claws or cool shells.
We are squishy and soft, and bears can eat us very easily.
Yes. So,
yeah,
the idea that humanity bands together, but also maybe pushes things too far. It begins to conquer as opposed to thrive. After that, we get mistake of the past, hope of the present. This is the Nausicaa. Something caused the end of the world. Nature has taken the world back. And now we're trying to figure out what the fuck could have happened back then. The price of peace is really fun. It's all about doing the 14 thing and trying to find a harmony between the spirits of nature and humanity. This sort of lasting peace that isn't just we stopped the gods from being summoned.
I gotta admit, the idea of the conflict between the nature spirits and the technological world, that one hits really, really hard for me personally, not because of any game or anything, but because of real life and just that balance of striking between, we as humans are part of the ecosystem, so we have to exist in it, but we should not destroy it so much that all the other stuff stops existing, and the constant back and forth. And you look at things like, as someone who personally really likes the idea of state parks and camping spots and hiking and all that kind of stuff, it's like, I understand we need to build a road so that people can live nearby and get fruit at the store and stuff, but also, can we plant some fucking trees on the goddamn highway and shit so that like the birds can live nearby? Like I'm very partial to that idea personally. And I think about down in Cape May Point where this is going to sound like a flex. I don't necessarily mean it to be, but down in Cape May Point where my family has a house, there's a big thing about the freshwater. There's a lake by our house called Lily Lake. That's this freshwater inland reserve that they make a very concerted effort about maintaining, because swans and ducks and all sorts of various, hawks and stuff use that freshwater lake as either a nesting ground or a hunting ground or a pit stop kind of area. And then if you go kayaking in the marshland nearby, they make osprey nests in the marshlands, because ospreys hunt saltwater fish, but they like to nest near freshwater, and they like to nest on really tall trees and stuff like that. So they make these really tall posts for the ospreys to make their nests on, and then the osprey flies over to the bay to fish, and then they come back to their nest. And it's just that idea of that balance. I also just think ospreys are fucking sick. I have a really partial. I love those birds. I don't know. You ever looked at one of those?
Osprey hawks. I love them.
Yeah, I fucking love those things. I think they're so cool.
Yeah. So I mean,
so like, I just, that whole idea of the balance and striking between like humanity, technology, and what are the animals doing. That whole thing, I think, is really cool, and the natural fantasy book talks about that, so that it struck a nerve, if you will.
No, I completely agree. So for me as a person, in a very similar vein, I wouldn't go as far as say I'm an environmentalist, but I do care about the environment, right? I grew up on the Hudson River Valley in New York. Josh did too, and
yeah,
20 years ago,
Hudson River's a big deal.
Yeah,
as it
20
turns
years
out.
ago, you could not eat the fish in the valley. That river was a fishing spot for hundreds of years, and it was so polluted you couldn't swim in it. You weren't allowed to.
It was like a sludge river.
Yeah, but due to concerted efforts from the towns on the Hudson River Valley, all the villages, you can swim in that water now. You can eat that fish now, and you shouldn't eat a lot of it. There's still a lot of mercury in those fish. They recommend maybe 1 or 2 a week at most.
Limit. Yeah,
but the river is
But you
healing.
can.
Fish are coming back. There were dolphins in that river in 2020.
Yeah.
There would not have been those dolphins a couple of years, 10 years before.
I think bull
that.
sharks come around too.
They do.
I remember correctly.
And bull sharks do not fuck around.
Yeah, no. They do not.
There are
fuck
two
around.
kinds of sharks that will fuck you up because they just have Black Air Force energy. Tiger sharks and bull
tiger
sharks.
Are tiger sharks are crazy, dude.
Yes. And bull sharks don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's true.
They've cut bull sharks open and found pieces of cars in them.
I know, they eat tiger sharks do too. They eat everything. They're crazy.
They are nuts. And they just see things and go, food. Like a great white. Everyone thinks you should be afraid of a great white. No, a great white will bite you because it's like, food? Question mark?
Yeah,
And it'll
great
nip you
whites are
and go,
pretty harmless overall.
Yeah, they'll look at you and go, oh, that probably wasn't food. I did bite it. It is bleeding. That's not good.
Also,
but a bull shark
great
goes,
whites very rarely swim. Great whites also very rarely swim around the areas where people swim. They generally devoid us. They're not huge fans.
yeah,
So like you don't run into them very much.
yeah. So all that to say, environment is very important. So this does hit really close to home because, you know, as someone who tries to believe in the betterment of humanity, despite what humanity keeps proving to me, we can be better. And I like the idea that Natural Fantasy's whole thing is to be better as a people. It hit.
It again, calling back to the Ghibli stuff. It's literally the scene in Princess Mononoke. Goddamn. Where they fight the corrupted boar and then they cleanse it of the corruption and then feel bad about it because the boar is hurt and dying. Like, it's that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I should rewatch that movie.
We should, you know what? Once we finish our Scooby-Doo rewatch, we should watch Princess Mononoke.
Fair enough.
After the mistakes of the past, so was the present, and the price of peace, we have words are not enough, which is just to say characters talking a big game, much like real life activism. God, I hate how much this keeps hitting me in the real world.
Yeah.
Words are not enough. You have to actually do these things, and people have to stand up to the bullshit, because if you don't, words are just pieces, you know, they're just sounds you make in pieces of paper. Actions solve things. After that, a cruel curiosity. This is a really interesting one. This conflict speaks to the best of intentions turning very sour, right? The idea of a scientist who wants to cure all illnesses, but is actively vivisecting living creatures and experimenting on them, reactivating technology that he should not be fucking with because it's a doomsday weapon. That kind of shit.
Yeah,
that's
they're
a good
going
one.
way too overboard for your evil. What is it? Good goals, wrong methods, or whatever.
Yeah. You know,
what
path
I mean?
to hell, good intentions, all that.
I said that wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I really like that one. I love me some villains. I love Xenos from Final Fantasy XIV. And people are a bit tired of the sympathetic villain. But the villain who genuinely goes, why are you trying to fight me? What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm trying to fix things. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know you don't personally like him, but you cannot deny that everybody take a shot for every time this motherfucker gets brought up. You can't deny that Thanos in the Avengers movie hit a chord in a certain kind of way, you know, like there's something about the thing that they were getting at there that it hit a nerve for people, you know what I mean?
Right. So my issue is not the idea that that MCU Thanos presents is an interesting idea. The thing that frustrates me about it is the you know, everyone has said it. Why don't you just double the resources or make the resources
execution
infinite?
is not the execution is not 100% there, but that opening premise struck a good enough nerve that people think about him a lot. You know what I mean?
No, for 100%.
You know what? People shit on MCU movies a lot in terms of cinema, broadly speaking, like the culture of cinema. But if a certain character got people thinking, even if you don't agree with how they got there, at least it got people thinking. That's still something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, look, I love Killmonger as a villain. He's completely wrong. His logic doesn't even make sense. But it makes sense to him.
It provokes a thought.
Yeah. The logic makes sense to Eric Killmonger because he's deeply disturbed. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, good. I'm on. Yeah. I'm not on board with what he's saying, but I'm on board with the fact that he's saying it with his whole chest.
and you're on board for thinking about it. Right? You're on board for the sparking of the conversation. Because there's a difference between agreeing with a villain, which generally you shouldn't, and thinking a villain is interesting because they spark a thought and get a conversation rolling. Two different things.
You should not agree with Eric Killmonger, but you go,
no.
Okay, but I see where he's coming from.
Yeah, you can
I see how a person could get to this point.
In the same way that you should not agree with any of the here comes a contentious point. You should not agree with any of the villains in The Last of Us, but the way in which they are such shitty, awful people should reinforce your thinking for why you should be on the side of the main characters, the protagonists. I bring up Last of Us because that one was highly contentious.
Yeah,
and you know, I think Last of Us 2 was hitting on some good points. It's just that the messenger fucking fucked up his own message.
The messenger and the execution were fucked.
Yes, basically.
You know what? I had this thought.
We're getting way too into it right now.
We are. No, that's good because that means we're engaged. I had this thought.
I mean, yes, but
on some level, this is gonna sound like such cap. Just hear me out. On some level, Metal Gear Solid does The Last of Us's messaging, what I argue better.
Which bit specifically?
The reason
I'm on the boat, but you got to finish the trip.
Right. So the idea, right? If you strip away the idea of militaires sans frontières, right? Like the idea that soldiers are this dejected class of people who only know one thing. They've been brainwashed to that thing. They have to do that one thing to survive, or they just don't exist right anymore. You move that to the side because it's important. But the idea of what are we fighting for? This is all hollow at the end of the day. This won't solve anything. This isn't helping anyone. We're just killing people. And that's not right. You know?
I see what you're saying, yes.
Snake's whole thing, right, in MGS4 is to end the proxy wars. Because you're just killing young men, you know, people who were children not a couple years ago for money. Now, with Ellie's whole thing, it's revenge. But the idea is it's this hollow idea that will bring you happiness, and it's not fixing anything. Yes. It's just making it worse.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm on the boat now. I follow. I follow what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, on the vein of killing giant monsters and giant machines, our next conflict is beasts and monsters. This is Monster Hunter. Now, you have to specify. This is Monster Hunter as a premise, not Monster Hunter in execution. Right? They're two very different things. Despite the game being called Monster Hunter, you and Monster Hunter are a bodyguard to an anthropologist, typically speaking. There's a scientist that's running around doing experiments and trying to better understand the wilderness and this crazy world you find yourself in. And you are there to make sure that that squishy person does not die. This is important. We're going to come back to this.
Something I think is a little funny about Monster Hunter is I feel like Monster Hunter as a series has always struggled with this premise itself.
Yes.
And is constantly trying to figure out what to do with it.
Right. Well, it's because it's people know, like, the lore for Monster Hunter is super cool. Like the ancient, the Wyverians, the first civilization stuff, that's super cool and really interesting. But everyone knows the premise of Monster Hunter in execution doesn't make any goddamn sense. If you're trying to save the lives of these monsters, why are you murdering them by the dozens?
Well, it's not totally out of the question, because if you think about it kind of like trophy hunting in real life, which I know a lot of people are anti-trophy hunting, but when you understand that trophy hunting actually funds a lot of conservationism, in the sense that some rich jackass wants to go hunt a lion, and they say, okay, bud, here's a tag. You can go hunt, you know, these specific lions who are old and have already mated and spread their genes and all that stuff. And we're going to take the money that you gave us to make sure that the lions are fed. And also we're going to make sure that they're not sick, and we're going to vaccinate them, all this stuff. Monster Hunter is kind of operating on that premise where you're sort of doing this thing where you're killing the monsters in the ecosystem that are bad and causing a problem, but that will help the ecosystem overall. The issue that the games have is there's a little bit of a ludonarrative Disco Biscuits situation, because the game says you're killing monsters that need to be taken care of, but that's the narrative, but the gameplay
is you're just murdering everything that moves.
I'm just murdering monsters over and over and over again so I can get their skin to make it into sick armor.
Right.
Which is, there's some dissonance there. But I think the thing you have to keep in mind is when you grind the same mission over and over and over again in Monster Hunter, you killing the same monster 15 times is not canon. Right? The canon of Monster Hunter is you killed or captured this monster one time to fix a problem. You as the player doing it 15 times to get your sick fucking sword is not actually canon.
Right, yes.
That's where it gets weird.
Like I said, we are going to come back to this because Emma makes a couple points about this trope, and I think it's worth mentioning on. And it has to do with what we just talked about. So we're going to loop back.
Speaking of that trope, side note, do you know the story of the woman who had to kill the giraffe? The really old giraffe.
In real life?
Do you know about this? Yeah, so there's a woman who trophy hunted a really old giraffe.
Yes, I do know. Yeah.
Out in the wilds in Africa. But the reason she did it, she might have even been a zoologist. I don't remember specifically. But the reason she did it is because that old giraffe was going around finding female giraffes and killing the kids because he was bitter and alone and wasn't around his children or something along those lines. So he was just killing new baby giraffes just basically for fun because he was such a grumpy old prick. So they were like, somebody needs to deal with this giraffe because he has killed so many babies that were like losing giraffes that shouldn't be dying. And everybody got really mad at this woman, but they basically asked her to do it, if I'm remembering the story. It's been a little bit, but if I'm remembering the story correctly, they basically asked her to do it. It's kind of a similar thing to that.
A bit, yeah. Up next, I believe our final conflict is something
stories.
bitter. Yeah. Well, I mean, something bitter or melancholic. This kind of tail notes this perfectly.
A similar kind of thing, yeah.
The idea here is that natural fantasy assumes that because you are at a lower technological level, you are at a lower level on the totem pole, that natural things get the better of you, right? Sicknesses get the better of you, disease, drought, famine. The world that you're living in sucks. It's hard to live there. And if you're not careful and you're not prepared, it'll get the better of you. And even if you are prepared, shit goes sideways and it could still get the better of you. So a really good one here is, it says, to defeat wrathful ice spirits, the alderman's daughter decides to wield an ancient relic with the power to destroy souls. She too is going to forfeit her own, but the clan will survive. Right? So the idea being is that something may have happened. It could have been an accident. It could have been on purpose. These people were just frankly unprepared to deal with spirits, things like Heibai. And to solve it, the alderman, which I'm assuming here is like a burgomaster, the mayor or something, had to lose his daughter to sort of set the scales.
Did you watch the trailer for The Witcher 4?
Yeah, no. I saw bits of it, not the whole thing.
Okay, it's literally that premise.
Is it really?
The opening shot is this woman and she's getting like bathed and dressed by a bunch of I don't know if servants, but she's getting bathed and dressed by a bunch of other people and they put like a crown on her and jewelry and all this shit. And she walks out to this big ritual and she's going to sacrifice herself to this like evil forest spirit. And then Ciri shows up and saves her because the town is like, the forest spirit's going to kill all of us if we don't. And the mayor is sacrificing his daughter, or, the town, the village leader or whatever. And Ciri shows up and deals with the forest spirit because she's like, no, we don't have to sacrifice your daughter, you dumbass. Yeah. It's literally that premise.
I really like stories like this, so here's the thing. I really like the Fate universe, and that's this entire series, like that, this entire conflict, is that characters have to make difficult decisions constantly, and if you just look at it at face value, it is sad. It's not a happy ending, but when you take time to think about it, there is a bitter sweetness to it. Spoilers for a fucking 20-year-old visual novel, but the main character dies at the end of the visual novel. And there's no guarantee, no matter what path you take, that he will survive. But when you take one of the paths, the idea is that the romance option that you choose goes with him when he dies. So maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe this is his one shot at redemption. I love stories like that.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Going back to the Monster Hunter thing, because this is going to lead directly into the next thing. Emma provided us so generously with a foraging system, which is to say, it is a means for characters to
This is one of the two main additional mechanics.
Yes, this is the Technosphere's equivalent. And it basically allows you to buy, sell, forage, or harvest materials from the world around you, from monsters. Now, like I said, at the start, this gave me mixed messages, right? Because I was thinking about it as Monster Hunter as the game. But this game, and Emma even says here in the rules, the killing things indiscriminately does not work. That completely misses the point of the balance. So you, as players, if you want to do the Monster Hunter style game, you really need to make sure that you're respecting the balance for the sake of themes. Because if not, it just kind of falls apart. And, we kind of talked about the whole, you're not actually genociding all these leagues of monsters. But it is something worth mentioning that if you're going to talk about this foraging system, you do have to bring that up. That there might be some noodliness, but the game is on the whole generous enough with its foraging to allow you to make the things you want to make and not have to be Goblin Slayer. You know what I mean?
Be Goblin Slayer.
Look, maybe you just want, you really just want goblin bones. Make goblin bone weapons, and you're like, I'm sorry, well, today's the day that goblins die.
Time to genocide some fucking goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's much more about the narrative of Monster Hunter, not necessarily the gameplay shakeout of Monster Hunter. And video games are a really good touchstone for RPGs for a lot of reasons, but one place where you do want to divorce yourself from video games is that ludonarrative dissonance, because often a video game will have the story aspect to the game and the gameplay aspect of the game, and they don't always line up 100% perfectly, because sometimes a good gameplay session or a good gameplay feel doesn't lend itself to the correct story feel. A great example that people bring up all the time is the Uncharted games, where in the narrative, Nathan Drake is not a murderous, stone cold sociopath, but in the gameplay, Drake kills hundreds of dudes.
Actually taking down armies by himself.
Yeah, but the game doesn't address that, because it's just because if the gameplay and the narrative were 100% in simpatico, Drake would shoot his gun like once every 4 hours and you'd kill like 2 dudes and that would be it. And that doesn't make for good gameplay. So use the story ideas of games, and sometimes you might have to throw away the gameplay stuff. Monster Hunter being another example. The narrative is that you're part of this conservation team. The gameplay is you're murdering monsters left, right, and center like a crazy motherfucker. In a tabletop game, do not have your players just brutally murder monsters left, right, and center for no fucking reason.
Right.
That goes against the point a little bit, at least in this context.
Yeah. Now, you might be wondering what the actual rules are for this system, and they are quite simple, actually.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah. The idea being is that when you choose one of the systems in question, whether you're foraging, forging, harvesting, any of that, you need to have one of two things to start. Either a artisan NPC, an artisan is a classification of NPC in this game that basically just does things, right? They just do the work. Or have the Tinkerer class as a character. Now, everything will be done in a series of projects to create things and to create something with the GM. Obviously, you have to work with the GM. They recommend doing it outside of session, just in that downtime period. The item you make basically needs to be a point cost. And that point cost is signified by the zenith that its composite parts are made of. So if you want to make this sick suit of Rathalos armor, then your GM goes, okay, well, that's like a 3,000 zenith item or a series of items. And then you go, okay, well, this Rathalos, pelt is worth 800. The ore is worth 400. The composite materials are worth another 500. Okay. So what are we at now? We're at 2,000. Okay, so we're going to need a couple more things and then you can have that armor. And the idea being is that as you're working on the armor, your character is making checks to incorporate those pieces into said armor. I feel like I worded that weirdly, but I don't
think so. I mean, the basic idea is you're collecting components. The components have a monetary value. The monetary value is what you do to assess whether you can put that towards a project or not. I have 1,000 crab legs to build my Crabinator 6,000. GM, is this enough crab legs? And the GM says yes or no.
I just think of the
right.
Fire the Dragonator.
Fire the Dragonator. Yeah. Yeah, it's honestly it might sound overly simple, but like that is it. That's basically the vibe.
Yes,
it's a pretty straightforward system.
There's not like I said, there's not a huge bit like you can sort of it gets into the minutia about getting your pricings because the pricings itself come from a list. It is
worth pointing out, though, it does build a little bit upon it does build upon some of the base game rules in terms of the project system and materials and stuff. So it is this Atlas plus some of the base game stuff.
Right. It actually, it also includes some of high fantasy. It pretty much all of it, right? Custom weapons come from high fantasy. It gives you tips for creating custom weapons using these systems. It goes into techno fantasy where it explains how to create technospheres with these systems and how to incorporate them and what the slot types for the technospheres can be. It even goes into like how to turn monster parts into parts of your mech if you're a pilot, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a
weird one, but yeah.
I'm very excited. As the guy, like I said, I want to play combat chef in Josh's upcoming game. I'm going to be using this system a lot.
Yeah.
Just going to go, but sir, you don't understand. I need to make Rocky Mountain oysters. You have to tell me how many balls the giant bull has.
How many balls do I need to acquire?
And how much money are all of these nuts worth?
How many balls are these nuts? How much zenith are these testicles worth?
I love the line and I only brought up the balls thing because I just thought about Mass Effect. It's like, yeah, they're a full set of Krogan testicles is going on the black market for like 40,000 credits. That's 4 a piece, and then you go, oh.
No, he said, I believe he says it's 40,000 credits. That's 10,000 each or something like that.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's like a full set costs you about 40,000. That's 10,000 per unit. And you're like,
yeah. And Shepard's like, what?
Yeah. He's like, that's more than I frankly wanted to know about Krogans, but thanks.
Good to know, Rex. Thanks, bud. Thanks for that.
Oh, I did skip this a little bit. This is a cool little thing. Natural Fantasy proposes a way by which to shift the idea of magic as a concept in the game to better fit with the setting. They did this with tech fantasy. We kind of brushed over it back then. The idea that magic is sort of a power source. It is this commoditized thing that is sort of techno fantasy is funny. It's almost like if natural fantasy loses, you get techno fantasy, because all the things that techno fantasy talks about that you're fighting against is what happens if your characters lose in this campaign setting.
Yes. Yeah.
If they win, we get high fantasy. If we lose, they get tech fantasy.
Yeah, pretty much.
And some of this cool stuff, they talk about each of the schools of magic and how to think about them. They talk about chimerism, elementalism, and spiritism as the most common types of magic that you'll see. Because spirits are so pervasive in the world of natural fantasy and any natural fantasy
the
campaign
idea
you're going to make.
The nature spirit is pretty everywhere.
Yeah, they are things. This goes like full Spirited Away. It sort of presumes that they are characters, they are creatures or beings that your characters don't just believe in, they see them, right? This is when, oh God, what's her name in Spirited Away? Is it Chihiro?
Yes, Chihiro.
When she goes on the train and just hangs out with No Face.
Yes.
And, you know, she's freaked out because she's not from this world. But the idea that there is a god level spirit on the train, just taking the 6 train downtown, just chillaxing, relaxing, all cool to go to the bathhouse. That's the thing that you're gonna see. You're gonna see the little chewingas just chilling on some toadstool. You can, you know, toss one a little high five with your fingertip kind of stuff.
Sup, bud?
Arcanism, obviously, Emma even said it himself. Arcanists are the closest thing to priests or clerics. They are going to be very pervasive in this setting because someone's got to talk to those spirits to stop them from pulling a haybuy and hitting something with its atomic breath. You know, you got to just talk them down sometimes. The one I think is super cool, though, is the way they talk about entropism. Because entropy, right, is the idea of, is the concepts of order and chaos.
Yeah.
It is sort of the raw magic stuff of creation.
Yes.
Which the game says most, if not all people, naturally will not have access to in natural fantasy. That power is of a before time. That was power that the previous civilizations were able to control and clearly must have lost control of, and you are just finding the vestments of that. So you could play an entropist. The game doesn't say that you can't play one, but it presumes that if you are an entropist, you are a person of extreme import. The fact that you're harnessing this crazy, potentially destructive magic, yeah, that's kind of important. They also talk about
kind of important.
Yeah, they talk about ritualism. Naturally, rituals are sort of an older idea. These things that sort of go beyond standard prayer, right? Obviously, that's going to be pervasive in this, and yeah, I mean, they talk about how rituals can be used to reactivate ancient machinery, take control of the forces of nature, crazy things. I would love the idea if someone did like watch, Isaiah's gonna bring up Naruto for some reason, but like the big bad does the fucking the Madara thing where he drops a meteor, and you know, you've got one player who's the crazy ritualist in the whole town doing the great forest emergence to catch the meteorite. That's some stuff that you could reasonably see in this setting.
I mean, yeah.
I've talked about this before. I used to think wood style in Naruto was so stupid until I realized how fucking sick it was. Wood style.
Yo, wood style. Wood style's hype. What the
Hashirama's my boy. I am one of those basic bitches who says Hashirama in Naruto is my favorite character because he's so cool.
Yo, wood style's hype as shit.
No, it is. I know that now. I didn't when I was in high school. I was like, wood style is stupid. And now I'm like, no, I would want to use wood style.
Here's the thing. I always thought wood style was cool because I was like, yo, trees are cool.
You know what it is, though? It's because Yamato is a bad introduction to wood style because he's kind of boring.
I disagree. I like Yamato.
I don't like Yamato. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like his weird fucking head sock thing. He's not that good at wood style.
Head sock thing?
Nah, you a bitch.
Damn. That's crazy.
You know, Naruto can use wood style post end of Naruto and he just doesn't.
Can he really? What the fuck?
Yeah, because his armor is made of Hashirama cells, so he has full access to wood style.
Of course he does.
Dude, I know way too much about Naruto lore because of the YouTuber
you know
I
way
watch.
too much about a show you don't watch.
I did watch. I read the manga. The show is terrible, but I like the manga.
You stopped watching the show the same time a lot of us does, which is to say early Shippuden.
I got later than that, brother.
Okay. I have a very distinct memory of when I stopped watching Shippuden, and it was the arc when they were looking for the three-tailed beast and the chick with the crystal chakra technique was there. Can't remember her name.
I can't remember that arc either. Who the fuck?
The three-tailed beast arc, I think, is literally what it's called. But there's a chick who her technique is crystals.
Oh, yeah. I do remember this vaguely now.
That's when I stopped watching.
I think I stopped watching very shortly after the Pain fight. And then I kind of
got farther than me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I tuned back because all my friends in high school were super Naruto, so I would tune back in during the Great War arc because I just liked watching Madara style on people. People being like, my ultimate technique, I can only do this once a day, and Madara goes, dude, that is so cute. I love that for you so much. By the way,
the character I'm talking about's name is Gurren.
Gurren. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up because I. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember her. Yes, I hated her outfit.
Yeah.
Terrible drip.
Anyway, this is terrible listening. You just move on.
Yeah, fair enough. Where are we? Where are we in my notes? I gotta find him. I was thinking about Naruto. God damn it. Oh, I mean, yeah. New rare items. We got some new rare items. They're really cool. I like them a lot.
I like that one of them's just a ladle.
It's just a ladle. Yeah. I was really trying to figure out what the references were in these, because the last couple books are like super heavy on the references for all their rare items. I couldn't really find them.
Yeah. I mean, ladle has to be a Dark Souls joke, right?
Like, okay. I didn't want to say it, but I think it is. I think it is a Dark Souls joke.
I feel like it has. The Derringer I thought was very funny.
I do love that. I like that it's not a marsh weapon, so anyone can get a Derringer.
Fair enough. I don't know if it's a Trigun reference, but it's funny if it feels like a Trigun reference.
Fair.
Yeah. The Blazing Fan, I feel like might be a Fatal Fury reference to Mai.
Oh, see, I actually thought that was a Naruto reference because the Basho Sen fan, the Hagoromo elemental fan that just shoots big things of fire out. Could be. The Libra, I don't know. A part of me was like, is that Frieren? Because one of the demon characters' whole thing is she has a fucking.
I don't think that lines up.
I mean, that manga is probably like 5 or so years old now.
Oh, the manga, maybe, yeah. That's true. I don't know.
Some of them were a little bit easier.
The Bronze Libra was weird, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of them were a little bit easier. The Barrel, Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And like the what is it? The Norimitsu. I thought that had to be a monster. It literally looks like the symbol for the Monster Hunter longswords.
It could be.
That was where my brain immediately went.
That would make sense.
The Engineer's Jacket, I just think of Sid from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And the only ones I can think of. Anything else? Eagle Fang Mantle.
There probably is other ones, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can't.
I feel like the lid shield has to be something, but I don't know.
The lid shield. Hold on, where was that again? Oh,
it's
yeah, it's just a garbage can. Yeah, it's got to be an old video game.
It's got to be something, but I don't know.
I really should have looked at them more closely, but it's fine.
Yeah,
you got new artifacts. I'm gonna be honest. I feel kind of bad saying it. I didn't read the artifacts.
I looked over them very briefly. I will say the one that I liked a lot was the what was it called? The Skull of the Salamander Goddess.
Oh,
that was a fun one. It was like if you throw the skull into a volcano, it will return. She who breaks the earth will rise unable to find her head, will roam across the world looking for it.
I see.
I just thought that was a fun one.
That's pretty crazy.
I looked at a couple of them. I looked at that one. I looked at the Calyx. I looked at I think the Gem Horn of Tranquility. I jumped around on the artifact. The thing about the artifacts is like the artifacts are cool, but you're only going to really pay attention to them if they make sense for your current game.
True. Very true.
So it's not worth putting a lot of time into them unless you're going to personally be like, oh, I want to look at this one, you know?
Yeah, I get you. So for me, that was Tech Fantasy because they had like the Persona cards and shit, and I was like, yes, these. Or they what is it? They had the demon summoning comp. I was like, yup.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, sir. After the artifacts and the weapons, we have the new characters, baby. I kind of love them. I love all of them. These are all great.
Did we get to the... Oh, no, the camp stuff is in this section. Okay,
yeah.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, I love the pre-generated characters. I don't think there's any of them that I dislike. We've got... So the first one, this is really funny. The hat looks like a frog, and they're wielding a pumpkin. I know we're talking a bunch about references. This might be a Soul Eater reference to the Frog Witch and Blair.
Could be.
Because the whole character is like, they fly like Blair. They fire magic pumpkins at people like Blair, but got a little frog hat and does plant stuff. So I was like, maybe a half demon dual wielding katana man. I don't think this is referencing anything. I think this is just a trope. I think they were just really riding the tropes on this.
I mean, I don't think he's a reference, but he looks cool.
I love him. I love that guy. Donna Maxwell is my favorite. The gilf with the sick revolver. Like
the old lady with the cool gun.
Yeah. I love her so much. Her seismic revolver is so sick.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that means.
Lady Underson. Also, I was like, oh, it's just Aegis. You're just playing Aegis. Fuck
so you thought Aegis? I thought this looked a lot like the main character from Violet Evergarden, which is not a show I've watched, but that's what she reminded me of.
I can see that, the blonde hair and blue dress. Yeah, that's really that punches through pretty hard. For me, Aegis is just like the Aegis kind of resembles a maid. She's got the little thing on her head and shit. So I thought Battle Maid. I also was like Oriana, but then I was like, League references.
We don't like those.
Yeah, no. Lawrence is just a Monster Hunter character.
Yeah, he's just a monster, straight up a monster.
He literally looks like a monster. You got the big bushy eyebrows and the great sword and Lawrence is just straight up he's a sword and shield user.
Yeah.
Crazy. Faced. Yeah, he really, my man's playing the one true way to play Monster Hunter. Sword and shield, nothing else. Where's Joe Cat up in this bitch? Melissa Holtz I liked. My head just said Yuna. She's not in Arcanist. There's no summoning there, but I was like, Yuna.
I could see that.
My favorite one. And go on.
Is your favorite one Milo Ulv?
Yeah.
The dog?
Milo Ulva. His name is just Merciful Wolf. That is like a direct translation of his name. Ulva is nice. German. It is like it's German Scandinavian for wolf, and Milo is just merciful, like caring. Nice. Is literally what he does. He's just a nice werewolf priest.
He's just a werewolf man who's a fucking nerd.
I kind of love him. I'm not gonna lie.
Fair enough.
Octavia Pulpy is Octopus Lady. Just fun octopus lady whose weapon is her reinforced pipe. Which she uses as a staff, which I thought was pretty chill. I'm pretty sure that the
Edge Queen.
The Edge Queen moth character.
Yeah, Ruari?
Something like that.
I don't know.
He's his like a great sword covered in brambles and has like a cloak made of his moth wings. I kind of love him. And then finally we have Tsukihime, the bunny lady.
Just Tsukiyomi.
She's literally just Tsukiyomi. Yeah. The whole rabbit theme, uses bow. Yeah.
Clearly wearing kimono. Like
yeah. I love that she's
second moon.
Yeah. Dude. She's just fucking Tsukiyomi. It's great.
Yeah.
After that, we have our camping rules, which is pretty fun. I think they. Oh, is that lower down? It might be. I may have.
A little, well, they reprint the custom weapon stuff and then camping rules.
Right. Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. So the custom weapon stuff. I don't think any of this has changed particularly.
No,
so.
Custom weapons are the same.
We do have some new ones. Why did the fucking pile bunkers come in on Natural Fantasy?
Pile bunker? What are you even talking about?
So the stake driver, right, is a.
Oh.
They're just pile bunkers. They're pneumatic drivers, which is to say the things that you like to embed stakes into the ground for like
it's for
cabins
mining.
And shit. Yeah, pretty much. But to any mech
it's
player,
for building railroads.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Pile bunker.
Pile bunker. Yeah.
If I don't do combat with I pile bunker. I will have one attack and it will be exclusively pile bunker.
I use pile bunker.
You just reach out and touch them, and then your reinforced tungsten tip punches through the rest.
Reach out and touch space.
Before we actually get into the motherfucking classes, we have the new quirks, which are some of them are pretty funny.
We gotta explain the camping activity rules.
Oh wait, shit, that's right.
Skipping things.
Oh god,
camping things.
Oh wait, did I?
Oh, they mentioned them and then they.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. Whatever order you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, no, yeah, they're underneath the quirks.
Technically, yes. The quirks are the same. They work the same.
They are the same. They work the same. We have some new ones that I like a lot. Ancient weapon is fun. It's you find the Monado in your Xenoblade Chronicles. Arboreal's an old one. You are a tree man. I really like Big Bro. Mainly because of the new lingo, like the new slang of Big Bro, just someone you look up to. It bounces off of camp activities. If your campaign does not use camp activities, this quirk lets you use them, and if you do already use them, it makes them better, which is cool.
Yep. I will say, oh god, which one was it? Shit. I should have made a note of it. What was the? Oh no, it wasn't a quirk. It was so there's a heroics. Well, we'll okay, yeah. It was a heroic skill, not a quirk. That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Well, we'll get to it in a second. I had a thought, but continue.
Gotcha. Cursed just kind of is what it says on the tin. You were hit with a curse, magical or otherwise. Elemental Soul, that's another reused one. You are imbued with the essence of
the Long Dream is a new one.
Yes. Well, so yeah, we'll get to that. Mysterious Grimoire is really cool. You just have a cool magic book, and what this is cool because what it lets you do is you can just tap it as a resource to get information on things that you otherwise would not have information on.
Yeah.
Once you do it 10 times, you've expended the book. However, your book just becomes a living thing. It just becomes a magical book like in Nier. You just get Grimoire Vice. And I like that a lot. That's really fun.
Well, it can become a magical book, or if you don't want it to be, you can unlock extra spells.
Right.
You have the option. It can become sentient, or you can unlock more spells, but then it loses its other abilities from the unlocking the extra spells. So there's an option on that one.
You get Comet, Hope, and Volcano, which are pretty big.
Which I'm pretty sure is a Final Fantasy IV reference.
Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah.
They are big Chungus spells. They will smack the shit out of you. I think I want to go with Grimoire Vice, though. I just kind of love...
I mean, it is fun having the talking book.
Outcast Fairy is pretty fun. Name on the tin. You're just a fairy that got kicked out of the dreaming.
Yeah.
Being a little fucker. Robot, that's a reused one. Stubborn Scion is new. This is pretty fun. You are a spoiled rich kid, and you are knocked down a peg. So your whole thing is like trying to figure out how to not be a little shitter.
Yeah.
Good one. Survivor, I'm pretty sure is an older one.
I think Survivor's an old one, yeah.
Yeah. The Beast of Spoke is fun. You're just an animal that talks.
You're a talking animal.
Yeah.
I think the Beast Who Spoke was in the Techno Fantasy. Pretty sure.
Yes, I believe it was Techno Fantasy, yeah. The Long Dream, which is pretty cool. Actually, I don't remember 100% what this does. You want to hit with this one?
You're fucking Titus in 10, basically. You're a dreamed up being. You're a spirit of some kind. Spoilers. You're your spirit of some kind who's like taken human form. And every session you make a roll, and then your last farewell approaches. And then once the last farewell goes, you give up your character. And the character dies, but then all the other player characters receive additional Fabula points for being around you, essentially.
That is pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Traveling workshop.
The examples it gives is you might turn into a guardian tree or into a visage on the side of a cliff, into a uniquely shaped rock. The idea is you're like a spirit from nature that has come and taken form to help the PCs, and then eventually once you do your mission, you kind of fade away again.
I like that a lot.
Yep.
He's good. Traveling workshop. That's another reuse from Techno Fantasy. Yes. I think it's called Mobile Lab or something in Techno Fantasy. It's the same. Yeah, you get a land vehicle that
you can work. You have a vehicle you can do projects in. It's
your Thunder tank from Thundercats. Anyone remember Thundercats anime from 2011?
Yep.
And how cool it was and how sad it was that it got canceled.
Yes, it is.
Finally, we get Underchild, which is fun. You are an experiment from the before time. You are the Prothean in the lab zombie who turns out to be War Crimes Jimmy.
Oh God, you're Javik?
You are Javik.
That fucking jackass.
I love Javik so much.
Oh, what a
Javik,
dick.
unironically, one of my favorite characters in Mass Effect.
Bro, really out here like, you are all simple. I hate you. You should be exterminated.
In my time, you would have been enslaved.
Oh, bro,
Javik
really just calls everyone slaves and simpletons.
I really appreciate that level of casual hate.
Such a pity bitch.
I love him so much. See, a character, you don't agree with him, but you love him.
He's certainly something.
Finally, we are at the camping activities.
Yes.
These are fun. You get 2 of them. I believe every character gets 2 of them per downtime, or it's a resting time. I believe a resting scene.
Isn't it 1 per resting scene?
Each player.
You get 2, but you pick 1.
Right. Okay, yeah.
You use 1 every resting scene.
Yes, and it provides you simple benefits, some fun roleplay opportunities, ways to give yourself buffs for the next day, prepare materials, all that fun stuff. The ones you can choose are Camp Forge. You basically just can forge new weapons, armor, and shields and so forth using the materials that you gain. Cartography. It allows you to re-roll travel rolls for the next day. Combat Lesson gives you some better attacks to spells and physical attacks. Daydream allows you to half your damage taken on the next big attack you hit. Double Portion gives you some more use out of your potions or anything that you use to recover hit points. Exploration is kind of fun because this is kind of the Stars Without Number site exploration, but super simplified.
Condensed, yeah.
Basically, while you're out looking for things or you're kind of out on the range, you can roll a d6 that allows you to find or interact with certain things. So you get Ouch, which is to say you recover half the normal amount of HP during rest, so it's not good. Not what I was looking for.
Sorry, that's the other one.
You can regain 2 inventory points. Oh, this can be useful, allows you to regain 3. And Jackpot is you regain 3 inventory points and you find Zenith equal to your level times 50. That's kind of fucking nuts.
You also meet a white-haired individual with sick guns.
With sick double fucking twin M1911s, baby.
Yeah.
I love, what are we shooting at? It's my favorite, dude. I'm so excited for the DMC anime tomorrow. I'm so hyped.
It's a good bit.
I just dated the shit out of this, but I don't care.
It's fine.
After that, we get Gathering, which is, you need to be the gourmet for this. This helps you cook your what are they called? Your delicacies, I believe.
Your delicacies, yeah.
It helps you pretty much just get better rolls for the delicacies, give them new tastes.
You acquire ingredients to make your fucking sick dishes.
Yes. Magic Lesson is something you can actually do with another person, and it allows you to choose a single spell that they know, and they can perform that spell, I believe. Yeah, before the next rest may perform them. Oh, wait, hold on. How does this work? It didn't work the way I thought it did.
The target may perform the spell action to cast the spell you chose. You basically teach someone
it's a spell you know. Okay, my bad. I thought it let you cast it quickly. My bad.
No.
Martial practice is the same. It just allows you to do another attack as if you had the multi-attack. Massage.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. It lets you half any MP cost you take for the next, I believe, up to your next rest. Midnight Oil. You generate 3 points of progress on a single clock. Midnight Oil, I think, is just an energy drink. I think that's the joke. You're just working through the night.
Probably, yeah.
Pep Talk helps them double any MP points they recover. Planning helps you perform group checks. You become the leader and people get to add static modifiers to their rolls. Sleep Soundly. Actually, again, this is another one where I didn't read that one 100% through.
You get another action.
Perfect. And then Training. I believe it just lets you not suffer a status effect if you were going to suffer one.
Yes, you get
originally.
to ignore it. Yep.
New classic characters. We have Elemental Acrobat.
All right, yeah, wait, jumped over so fast. I mean, I was just gonna say the very basic broad strokes of the camp activities thing is whenever you go to take in D&D parlance, a long rest, you can do some kind of activity to give the group a buff for the subsequent day is the basic idea. And the way the game describes it is that camp activities should be treated as little mini scenes between all the characters. You shouldn't treat it as purely just a mechanical thing where you're like, I get this buff, right? You should act it out and describe what's going on and all that stuff. But the idea is that fictionally you're sitting down and relaxing and hanging out. Mechanically, you're giving yourself a buff from that for the next day.
Right.
Apologies
for jumping so fast. Our new classic characters are Elemental Acrobat, consisting of Fury, level 1, Invoker, 3 levels, and Sharpshooter, 1 level. You have there's a really cool tiger lady who's she's the character for the Evoker, has a giant bladed chakram. Very cool.
Chakram thingy, yeah.
The Flutist Monk, I believe, was the character, the octopus lady.
Probably.
You have 3 levels of Invoker, 2 levels in Spiritist. Frontier Researcher, you have 1 level of Lore Master, 2 levels of Merchant, 2 levels of Sharpshooter. Grinning Veteran, I like a lot. It just has some unhinged energy. You have 3 levels Gourmet, 1 level of Guardian, 1 level. This is pretty much pretty close to what I would be running then. I don't know about Guardian, but something of a similar vein. And we have Keeper of the Sacred Tree, 3 levels Arcanist, 2 levels Invoker, Lotus Duelist, 2 levels Elementalist, 2 levels Florist, 1 Weapon Master, Shy Apothecary, 1 Merchant, 4 Tinkerer, Small Merchant, 2 Merchant, 3 Wayfarer, Troublemaker Rogue, 2 Gourmet, 1 Rogue, 2 Sharpshooter, Twilight Witch. Holy shit, there's more of these than I thought there would be. Oh my god, there's so many.
Yeah.
Never mind, we're gonna skip to the new characters because I'm not reading all those. We have our first new class, the Florist. And the art for the Florist is sick. It's a very buff, very handsome, rugged, dark-skinned gentleman with vitiligo.
Sexy, handsome man unleashing evil flower, or maybe not evil, unleashing flowers as weapons against you.
Yes. Also known as the Boom Blade, the Gardener, or Herbalist. Wait, one of these things is not like the other. Bloom Blade, my bad.
Oh,
Bloom Blade, what the fuck is that?
Bloom Blade. That makes more sense.
Yeah. Pretty basic stuff. Your free benefit is you have a permanent increase to your maximum HP or mind points by 5 points. It's pretty typical. Your Florist skills are Battle Gardening, Chloromancy, Graft, Tree of Life, and Verdant Sway. The big class feature for this are your Magiseeds. You become...
Well, yes, your big ability is your Chloromancy, which gives you...
Right, yeah, your Chloromancy, which gives you Magiseeds. Easy plot pitch, you are Poison Ivy.
As is the case with many of the classes in the game, there is one skill amongst the class that is kind of the primary skill to unlock their main bit. Which is the chloromancy in this case.
Yeah, I kind of flip-flop back and forth on whether I like that or not, because on one end, it means that, in D&D terms, I can play a druid and not have to waste any points on wild shape, that thing I don't care about.
Correct, yes. I mean, you're wrong, but yes.
Uh-huh. But on the other end...
Your opinion is wrong, but yes.
But on the other end, what if I want to focus on that thing? Now I have to put extra levels into it. Shit.
Well, my only problem is I do wish the game just pointed out. So, like, for example, if you don't take chloromancy with the florist, you don't have access to the Magiseeds mechanic, which I feel like is kind of a big deal. So I just wish the game would point out which of the abilities amongst the classes is kind of that key ability.
Right.
The problem is that not every class has a key ability like that necessarily, particularly when you're talking about the base classes in the base game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my only. It's not even really a peeve. It's just the thing I was like,
it's a thought. Yeah, it's similar to what I was thinking about. Now, the Magiseeds themselves are fucking wild. You get they're separated into different types. I believe that's the gourmet. The gourmet is the different things. I'm stupid.
Yes, no, the Magiseeds are just a list of magic.
Yes.
It's just a list of the different ones you can grow.
Right, yes. The Magiseeds are, like I said, are done on a list. They are simple, but very effective. They're all pretty well designed and are quite strong into themselves. I wouldn't say any of them are necessarily overpowered. And the thing that I really like is that they have a very clever use of overlap in them. So the second one is called the Blazing Chrysanthemum. Its ability is at the end of your turn, choose Earth or Fire. Until you use this effect again, or this Magiseed is no longer in your garden. We'll talk about that in a second. All damage dealt by you and every ally present on the field becomes the chosen type and cannot be changed and ignores resistances. There is a flower that gives you 2 of each element type. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, well, I don't use that damage. It doesn't matter. It's all good. It'll overlap at some point. And
well, yes. One thing that's also worth pointing out with the flowers is, as the flowers grow, quote unquote, every flower you grow, you make a or every Magiseed you grow, you make a clock. And as the clocks grow, some of them have additional benefits that stack on top of each other too.
Yes, they have tertiary and secondary, tertiary events.
You could grow multiple Magiseeds, which will then stack effects on top of each other as they grow over the subsequent turns, which will then get better with each turn. I had a very fun idea for a character that is an arboreal Dark Knight florist that grows the Magiseeds out of their physical body because they are a plant person.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. So we were just talking about asphodels. The perfect example of this is the Grave Asphodel flower, because it has one effect every turn that it grows. So when it's first planted, at the end of your turn, you may choose an enemy you can see. If you do, that enemy suffers shaken. At the end of round 2, or the end of your turn on round 2, every enemy you can see suffers shaken. At the end of your turn, round 3, you deal an amount of dark damage equal to 15 plus your skill level in Chloromancy to each enemy you can see who is suffering from shaken. So it's a fun way to stack effects and have some really cool interplay going. Now, keep in mind, you can only have one flower in your garden at a time. I don't know if anything changes that. I think, is there a heroic skill for that? I think there might be.
I feel like there is, but I don't remember which one it is.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. So you will have to play that game of, do I want to keep this going to its maximum level, or do I have to swap out for a new situation? Yep. Something worth thinking about. And frankly, I like that kind of interplay stuff. That's what I was doing as Django, the whole campaign.
Well, yeah, the idea is you have to make a choice. You can't just have everything you want. Which, choice is particular when you're talking about a tabletop game. That's what makes the fun of your turn. Mm-hmm. Having to make a decision about things.
So my idea for the florist is like a wizened old hermit who knows a lot about the the like language of flowers.
Yeah.
Just like, maybe not even that old, but like mid 50s or something. And the whole idea is they're just a florist, like a straight up florist. And if they are ever fucked with, do their crazy magic shit, but are otherwise just giving people worldly advice using the language of flowers.
Just talk about flowers a lot.
Yeah, I love that. It really, the thing that gave me that is the magnolia, the lunar magnolia. It is magnolias are on average my favorite kind of flower because they have like a bunch of meanings in the language of flowers, like a crazy amount.
I see.
And I was like, yes, this is good. I like this a lot.
This is good stuff.
After the florist, we have my favorite class in this atlas, the gourmet, baby. And I love the art for the gourmet. It is adorable little like elven lady with a long braid fork and a giant fucking fork as a like weapon.
I will say for the gourmet, I had to reread the gourmet rules like 3 times. It's quite in depth. I was like, what how the fuck does this shit work? I had to reread it quite a few times. I was like, okay, I gotta figure it out now.
Yes. So for the gourmet's free benefits, you get a permanent increase to your maximum inventory points by 2, and you can start projects to create unique foods and drinks. They are always consumable, and their area is based on the number and type of creatures you need to nourish. Your skills are cooking, knife and fork, made with love, salt and pepper, and traveling cook. Your main class ability is cooking.
Yeah, cooking being the key one.
Yes. And this gets complex. Yeah. So, during play, you can create these things called delicacies. They are basically food that you are throwing together and cooking up on the fly that have effects. Those effects are dictated by flavors. Now you have a number of flavors between bitter, salty, sour, sweet, umami, and 6 being your choice on a d6. The way this works is that when you create a delicacy, you have 2 tastes that you combine, either by rolling them or having them pre-done as like a thing that you are prepping. When you combine 2 tastes for the first time, you roll to see what those 2 tastes do. If you have one that overlaps, you then get to choose the taste, but at the start, there's a bit of a randomness factor to it. If you roll a food that uses 3 ingredients, so 3 different tastes, you combine the 2, you sort of do them cumulatively. So you go, okay, so if my 3 flavors are bitter, bitter, salty, you go, okay, bitter and bitter make 1 effect. Now bitter and salty make another effect, and those 2 effects activate in tandem. I think you can go as the highest you can go is 4 ingredients. And yes.
No, it's always 2 ingredients.
But you can upgrade that with heroic stuff.
Oh, there might be a heroic skill. At base, it's 2 ingredients.
Yes, because you can get up to 3 different effects. You need more ingredients for that. You need 4 total.
The basic idea is you roll for these random tastes and you slap them together to then make a delicacy, and then you keep a list of which taste combinations you have already done to dictate what each of the delicacies do, and the delicacies all have different effects. We're sort of simplifying it down, but when you read it initially, it is quite dense.
It's very dense. Much like Josh, I had to read this a few times to get it.
Yeah.
There are 12 total effects that the ability can have. A lot of them increase in effectiveness the higher level you go, and this is your cumulative level, not your class level, because you can get up to level 30 or plus. There are special rules for your delicacies. So as we said before, they can only have 1 type of effect, so 1 damage dealing effect, 1 healing effect, so on and so forth. And a big thing to recognize is that the delicacies are done during scenes. You cannot make delicacies preemptively. If you want to do that, it specifically says you have to do projects for that and prepare them that way. So if you bake, cakes that you can eat in combat, but you made them the day before, that's a project that you have to do, and that's where the foraging and material stuff comes in. It is such a cool fucking class, dude.
It is very, yeah. I don't know if we're sales pitching it very well because it's one of those ones that's a little hard to explain, but when you read it, it's very cool.
It's very, very cool.
I will say, it's kind of funny that you can only make delicacies in a conflict scene because the idea is you just like, you whip out your fucking wok and throw the ingredients in really fast and just fry that bitch up. I imagine the old man at the Chinese food restaurant just fucking flipping that bitch with a cigarette in his mouth. Fucking
yeah.
And then he just throws it at the monster.
Yeah.
You just make some fried rice and then chuck that shit at the bad guy.
So it'd be really funny if your whole thing was you're like a sashimi chef. You're like, cooking, we don't cook here. We chop and serve, baby.
Chop, throw. Yeah.
You feed us, you're like, I don't like fish. Eat the fucking fish.
Yeah. And if you're curious what the delicacies do, I mean, it's shit like recover from status effects, heal your HP, heal your mind points, deal damage based on a type like air, bolt, earth, fire, ice, all that shit. Stop target, so like you have stop a target from guarding, stop a target from using a spell, stop a target from performing the skill action, adding resistances. It's a whole bunch of like buffs and debuffs that you throw out effectively. You're a buffer and debuffer, but with, you know, fucking sweet kebabs.
Yeah, I just had a great idea for a chanter. I know it's not in this book, but if you were to do a chanter in Natural Fantasy, do you know what you'd be?
What?
You'd be a hex girl, because they're eco goths.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So. Oh no. Is that the character? Is that actually the character? Am I gonna be a hex girl? I'm so excited. I'm so ready for this. No, it's all. I'm literally sorry. I'm just have to stop because I'm thinking about how good this bit would be.
Now he's getting distracted.
I am. I just stun locked myself, being like, "Wait, I'm a genius."
Sir. Next class.
Next class, we have the Invoker, also known as the Ascetic, the Channeler, or the 5 Soul Master. I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't quite figure out what this is supposed to be because I thought Dancer. But
like what it's a reference to? Yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of an elementalist.
Yeah. It's you're. This feels like our first hybrid class because you are a weird mix of elementalist and spiritist because your character is literally calling upon spirits, but they are intrinsically elemental spirits. And it's really cool here because the spirits have different effects when you call on them. I'll get into it in a second. Their free benefits are the standard permanent increase by 5 to hit points or mind points. Their skills are Elemental Harmony, Invocation, Linked Invocation, Ripples, and Wellspring Expansion. Invocation is obviously the class skill here. Your invocations are of the following. You have, there's one for each element, and they are separated into 4 types. You have your Blast, Hex, tertiary ability. They're not really named, but yeah, there's blasts, hexes, elemental abilities, and a secondary elemental ability. It's weird to describe. Perfect example.
No, it does. It meant,
or I guess it's a heal. I guess one of them is either a heal, a buff, or debuff.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So you have
blast, hex, and then 2 other abilities that vary a little bit more.
Yeah. You have the different invocations are air, earth, fire, lightning, water, and they do. Did you notice that there's like a slightly, in my opinion, like a kind of odd order to these things?
No.
So the arrow hex makes it so you deal extra damage from lightning and fire damage. And I could figure out why, right? You're blowing air, you're feeding a fire. But the bolt I wasn't 100% sure on. And then I went, oh, okay. So like, does the fire one increase damage to fire? No, it increases damage to earth and ice. The lightning one increases damage to earth and fire. So there is like a Pokemon system going on here.
Yes.
What I'm saying is it's not as intuitive as you would think. You want to double check before you take them, is all I'm saying.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't look quite that close, but I see what you mean.
Yes, they're really neat. I mean, this is probably the simplest of them. It seems like the most complicated. I would argue it's probably the simplest.
It's the simplest of the 4 in this book. Yeah.
Yeah. They are cool because you can sort of tap into these things called well springs, which.
Yeah, so that's the bit that I think is particularly interesting about this class is that the GM, during a scene, it says your surroundings grant you 2 different well springs. The game master tells you what they are. Remember to describe how well springs manifest in the scene. They may be natural features, objects, or creatures. And then it gives an example. During a battle taking place on a steam-powered airship amidst stormy clouds, any 2 of air, fire, lightning, and water would make sense. So it's basically the idea is that the GM is dictating in the scene what you can utilize. So you have to, as the player, adapt your evoker abilities to the situation. You can't just declare I'm going to use X, Y, or Z because the GM has to dictate what you could potentially utilize, which I think is an interesting little back and forth between you and the GM.
Yes, I do like that a lot. The idea that it's like, oh God, we could really use fire right now. Too bad we're in the middle of the fucking ocean.
Yeah, you're in the middle of the ocean, so the GM's like, you ain't got no fire, chief.
But you
or
do
you're
have
on the
wind
top
and
of
water.
a snowy. Yeah, it's like, or you're at the top of the snowy mountain, so you have wind and water, but no fire, no lightning, no earth, or whatever. something like that.
So for
I guess you
me,
could have earth.
This is the character I struggled the most with thinking about what I would want to do.
What did you do with it? Yeah.
I feel like the easy answer, you just go Elementalist, Weapon Master, and then Invoker. So you're just a dancer in 14 with like an elemental spin on it.
I think that the Elementalist work by itself did not immediately give me an idea, but I think when you pair it with other shit, it will give you ideas. And since you have to, you literally have to pair every class with other classes in this game, then, that makes sense.
Yeah,
you're legally obligated. If you don't, they will come to your fucking house.
They is me.
At gunpoint. Bitch.
Yes. With God's honest double lock buckshot.
Oh.
The final class we have is the weirdest one by far. But it has, in my opinion, the most opportunity for a creative spin, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like if you played like a merchant, orator, tinkerer, you could have a really interesting, not fighty, weird character on your hands.
I was just about to say, the thing that I like about class, like, you could play a lore master, orator, merchant. You don't really fight, but you are so good out of combat, it's a little crazy.
Yeah, in most other conflict scenes, you are just Chad Thundercock.
Yeah. Yes, the class in question is the merchant, also known as the antiquarian, the collector, or the pharmacist. Your merchant free ability is a permanent +2 to your inventory points. Your class abilities are expiration date, I've heard of it, private stock, real treasure, and winds of trade. This is the most simple one. Like,
well,
it's weird. Like, mechanically, it's the most simple, but it requires the most thought. Whereas Invoker,
you gotta think about how to use it a little bit.
Yeah, not mechanically the most simple, but because the GM does a chunk of that work for you with the Wellsprings.
Yeah, the thing is, the winds of trade, you have to consider how to utilize your trade points efficiently.
Yes. The big thing with these guys, again, is their trade points. It's weird. So here's the thing. Winds of trade, I wouldn't call your class ability. I don't even necessarily think you need it. I think it's important, but I wouldn't say that you need it. And it does give you a resource.
Yeah, that's the one that gives you the resource. That was my train of thought.
It's an odd one, but it's cool. Because this doesn't have any like crazy offset mechanics, so we can just sort of go into the actual core abilities a little bit more. Expiration date is fun. Basically, whenever you create an item, a potion, and it also mentions a delicacy if you want a multi-class gourmet. You can have it not deal damage, It does not deal damage. What is it? You said, yeah, you created that. Does not deal damage.
Basically, the idea is you make food and then it goes rotten, and then you could throw it at the rotten food and someone to deal poison damage.
Anything that you do that heals, rather than doing its other effect or heal, it does poison damage.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. When you are an ally who's able to hear and understand you, perform a check to examine a creature, item, or location, you can spend 1 trade point to just know what that thing is, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Private stuff. Actually, so I guess that is because other things have to key off the trade points. So maybe that is their class. Private stock. When you or another player spend, SL.
Skill level.
Soul level, is that it?
Skill level.
Skill level. My bad. Plus
so
2,
however many points in the skill you have, plus 2.
Right. Or fewer inventory points, you can spend 1 trade point to ignore cost. Real treasure once per session once per session. My ability to read is going out the window. When you help an NPC or a community defeat greed and corruption, improve quality of life, or coexist with other creatures, you acquired the Winds of Skill trade. You gain skill level plus 1 trade points. This one's really cool because this is super big in just the idea of the role play of there's very little quote unquote mechanics here other than the thing that you are, the trade points that you're burning.
You acquire points for your other ability, but the point is that you're interacting with the fiction of the game to acquire those. I
really fucking wish D&D shit, man. I'm not even kidding. This would be so interesting if they did this.
Winds of Trade and Real Treasure are the kind of abilities that D&D would never even fathom to utilize, honestly.
Right, yeah. It's a shame, but yeah.
Yeah, Winds of Trade. So... Winds of Trade, after you rest in an area where commerce is possible, you gain skill level plus 1 trade points. You can never have more than skill level plus 3, which means a max of 6. If you acquire the skill during character creation, you begin with 2. During a non-conflict scene, you spend 2 trade points to choose an option. You create a material or rare item approved by the GM whose value in Zenith is equal to or lower than your level multiplied by 30. Or, and this is the one I like, you create an NPC that lives nearby and explain their occupation as well as how you met them. Then the GM tells you what they require in exchange for their services. So you have a mechanical ability that says, GM, I would like to conjure a character who is useful to me. And this is a thing I've seen in other games, but I like that it was stuck onto a class here because it makes it feel... So... For example, Burning Wheel is a game where you can do a similar thing. There's a rule in that game where you can create NPCs on the fly using a particular kind of role. I think it's interesting that Fabula made it a class skill specifically because making it a class skill makes it feel almost a little bit more authoritative. Like, this is an ability I have, you can't tell me no kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Basically, you can find an item you need or whip out a useful NPC, which I think is really cool. And the interplay between there's not a ton of non-combat classes because Fabula is still mostly a combat game, but there's a couple of non-combat classes, and because every character is a multi-class character, the interplay between using some of the non-combat stuff with the combat classes is very interesting. I would think it would be also super fun to see a supplement that is exclusively non-combat classes just to see what kind of cool shit you could throw in there, you know?
That would be fun as fuck, yeah. I'd love that.
Yeah. So, yeah, the merchant is mechanically the simplest, but requires still a good amount of thinking on your part of the player as to how to best utilize it, and requires you to be a little bit proactive as a player too, particularly when you're talking about the real treasure ability, where when you help an NPC community defeat greed and corruption, improve their quality of life, or coexist with other creatures, that requires a degree of player proactiveness that some players might not be used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even I thought about that first. As a GM, I was like, I might struggle with that. I might not, but that could be a little tough.
Like how do you do But if a player says, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, does this count for this ability? Then you as the GM can, decide. So it will be the merchant will work particularly well if you have a degree of proactiveness as a player. That's my takeaway on that one.
Yeah.
And then heroic skills.
Quantum fuck ton of heroic skills. There's so many. I'm not reading all these. They're cool.
Will say, so
they're very cool.
The thing I love about the heroic skills is they really, if you just jump around and look at them, whichever ones seem interesting, they can really spark some fun character ideas. The reason I had this thought is because I looked at the one called Brambleheart, which says you must have mastered one or more classes among Darkblade and Florist, and you must have the Chloromancy skill. This is the one that made me think about the Arboreal Darkblade who uses flowers sprouting from their own body, because it specifically interacts with those two things.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like the idea of looking at the heroic skills and that generating ideas for characters, because heroic skills are a goal that you can have. Like, once my character hits level 10, I'm going to pick up this heroic skill, and that's really gonna bring everything together.
Yeah, I agree.
But worth pointing out, different than the D&D kind of thing where a lot of people go, oh, my build is going to come online at level 8 or level 10 or whatever. Because of the way the classing system works and the multi-classing / it's not actually multi-classing, it's just classing in this game. The way it works in this game, because you have to mix and match, your character is going to feel like you're generally on track right from the jump. But the heroic skills are what's going to take you to that next step of, now I'm really locked in. So you still feel like you're playing the kind of character you want in the beginning, and then you get the reward of the commitment, halfway through or so. Because you unlock heroic skills at level 10, which is not that, that's only a third of the way through the game, more or less, through a campaign. So you're into the campaign enough that you have investment, but not so into the campaign that you're starting to burn out and not care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what I'm saying is, take a look at heroic skills if your game is using, if you're using them in your game, because they are technically a optional rule. Take a look at them and use them to percolate ideas.
Are we going to be using those?
Yes.
Let's go.
We're going to use the whole natural fantasy book.
Let's fucking go, gamers. Very excited. So I have a small admission.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really look at the antagonist that much.
Listen, that's okay. It's the same deal. The game gives you 5 boss type monsters that are themed to the Atlas, the same as the other 2 did. There's nothing new in them. They're cool like the other ones are. What else do I have to say?
I do. So we can give you kind of a description of what they are. The first one I do want to mention the Tanatrani. So it's coming from the word Tanatris. Yeah, the Tanatrania Rex.
Tanatrania Rex. Looking at the Tanatrania Rex stat block and how that boss works is what made me finally decide, all right, fuck it, I'm going to run this game. Because it is a giant beetle spider thing that looks like a boss straight out of Legend of Zelda, basically. And the thing that's really cool about it is mechanically it's broken up into 3 parts: its abdomen, its head, and its thorax, because it's a big bug monster. And the interplay of the mechanics between the 3 pieces of the big bug monster is what gave me some really cool ideas for how I could use bosses and villains in this game. And that was what made me finally bite the bullet and be like, all right, fuck it. I guess I'm running this game. So, yeah. Big Bug fucking cool. I like Big Bug.
Big Bug is cool. So it's funny, you said Legend of Zelda. I was like, this looks like a Monster Hunter boss. I want to get some cool armor off this guy.
It does also kind of look like that. Did you look at the Eldgren?
I did.
I fucking love that thing.
It's just a Leshen. It's a Leshen from fucking
It's a huge
Witcher.
Leshen horse.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like that. I mean,
so sick looking, and it's breathing fire.
And it's breathing fire. I mean, the one that I was looking at was Titania.
Of course.
Yeah. Big booba.
For no particular reason.
Look, it's a very attractive fairy lady. With
who's also kind of jacked.
Who's got some she's well endowed assets, not just her typical ones, but she's got some sick biceps and rippling abs.
Yeah.
She looked really cool.
Yep.
I really like. She
also is mechanically dense as hell.
Yeah, I mean,
because she has like 4 servants who all interplay mechanics between them and shit. That boss is crazy.
Yeah, she's pretty chunky. I really like the Node and Dylan, which so in this one I believe, yeah, Dylan is the guy.
Dylan's the dude, yeah.
I don't know why I feel like you would want to put Dylan and Node because
I don't know.
The first person you would assume that the first person is the master or the like decision. I don't know. It's literally a Monster Hunter bow player with their pet. Node is a saber-tooth wolf shark.
Yeah.
It has a shark
fish thing,
claws, a saber-tooth's teeth, and a wolf's head. This thing is fucking crazy looking. Kind of love it.
It's very cool looking. Yeah. It's basically a disgraced hunter and his really awesome Beastmaster pet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's been the natural fantasy.
And then Brightonville is a big fucking bone dragon.
Oh, right.
Ancient evil bone dragon.
It's a construct, right? It's like
yeah. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Literally you fight your way up its back. It's kind of sick. It's like the the Dalamadur fight.
What?
Oh, sorry, not Dalamadur, Zora Magdaros.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to like run up its back to its head.
Yeah. I got you.
Wrong Elder Dragon.
A big dragon.
Yeah. Little fun honorable mention at the back of the book. There's this adorable, like, he looks like King Frost from Persona, but he's made of flan.
Where? What?
The literal back cover of the book.
A back cover?
Like the final page.
Oh.
He's made of flan. I love him.
The Mellow Kingdom.
Yes. I hope this guy comes with the bestiary, because that would be cool.
I'm real excited to see what the bestiary goes us.
I am too. The hype is real.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I expected to not like this Atlas very much, and then ended up liking it a lot.
And then it was actually peak, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like
that's the most important takeaway.
Yeah, it's that it's actually peak, yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the title. Fabula Ultima Natural Fantasy, actually peak.
Again, doesn't change up the general flow of the game as much as the Techno Fantasy book does, but
it doesn't need to, god damn it.
Yeah, basically it doesn't need to. It adds to it in good ways.
I'm very excited to play this.
I'm sure you are.
Yes, sir. And we're gonna have fucking Paladin and Sereth with us. New party.
Yes. It's true, new group, yes.
This is gonna get so wacky. It's gonna be me, Lita, Paladin, and Sereth. This is gonna be nuts.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Fucking follow us on the social medias if you want to. It's in the description.
Yeah.
Or don't.
Or don't, yeah.
I'm not that invested in it.
All right, I'm gonna go think up characters. Peace, motherfuckers.